Hey, it's Amber. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, I make kind of crunchy motherhood and lifestyle videos. If that's your kind of content, would love it if you subscribe down below, and welcome. My son is just weeks away from turning 2. And in the last couple months, I have noticed more and more that we are really coming into this season of full-blown toddlerhood, which is so cute. Like, I love seeing his little personality develop, and he's got opinions now, but it also can be so overwhelming and so overstimulating at times. There's been a lot of tantrums, crying, screaming, and wanting to be held for what feels like half the day. And I know I am not the only one dealing with this. So today I thought I would sit down with you and share some of the things that I do to decompress and keep my calm in those challenging moments. The first thing is to eliminate background noise. So turning off the music or the TV. This is something that I actually do naturally, but I know that a lot of people have the habit of having something on all the time. My parents do this, my husband usually does this as well. And I'm not saying don't ever have anything on, but if you have something playing in the background while your toddler is having a tantrum, for example, you might be making your situation more overwhelming for yourself and possibly for your toddler. You could always try to get in the habit of not turning anything on if you're not ready to sit down and actively listen, but at minimum, if your child is crying or having a tantrum, pause. If you do have something on, turn it off and just see how it feels for you and for your child. The second thing is that I stopped drinking coffee first thing in the morning. I've been doing this for about 6 months now, and it's just kind of one of those like start the day off on the right foot kind of a thing. I just found that when I was drinking coffee first thing before anything else, I would feel super shaky and anxious, and so it didn't take much to push me over the edge. And this can happen because in the morning, your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, is already rising to help you wake up. So when you drink coffee first thing, you're gonna spike it up even higher. So the problem was that I would go from feeling super anxious and just like on edge to feeling way too drained to deal with anything when inevitably a couple hours after my coffee, my cortisol levels would just crash way down. If you Google it, most experts will tell you to just wait until after you've eaten your breakfast. I only drink decaf these days, and I wait until Kai's napping, so around noon, to drink my coffee if I'm gonna even have coffee. And it's really improved how I feel on a day-to-day basis, which in turn has improved how I respond to my toddler when he's having a moment. See, like right now, I chose to have a green tea instead of a coffee today. This is kind of a funny one, but I swear it helps. Just going to the bathroom by yourself as often as you can. Now, of course, with little kids, you cannot do that all the time. If you don't have kids, you might be like, what? But it's a thing. They follow you in when they're babies. You might just carry them in and like set them down in a little like bouncer chair or something. And I did this way more before Kai was super mobile, but I still try to do it as often as I can. It does make a difference. Occasionally with toddlers and little kids especially, you might need to take a more intentional moment away during the day for yourself. But I found that just having these 1 or 2 minute breaks throughout the day really just helps me to kind of like reset constantly. Obviously, make sure your child is safe. I used to put Kai in his crib or like even his bassinet before that, and sometimes I still do that because he has not gotten to the point where he'll like climb out of his crib, and I know that he would rather hang out in his crib with like a book or a toy for 2 minutes than to have me shut the bathroom door in his face. Since Kai is almost 2 though, I'm also trying to work on the concept of privacy with him, but it is very much a work in progress. Depending on how old your baby or toddler is, there might be a little bit of crying, but as long as I know that he's safe and I'm not taking a ridiculous amount of time, having these little micro breaks throughout the day is still refreshing and almost recharging, even if there's a little bit of crying in the background for a couple minutes. The next thing is to get outside. This is good for everyone, especially if you are having a day where there's lots of tantrums and crying. A change of scenery might be all that's needed to break the cycle. Most kids love to play outside or even just be outside. Kai certainly does, and it feels good for me too when I am at my breaking point to breathe in some fresh air and feel the sun on my face. And there's lots of studies that show being outside improves your mood, so there's literally nothing to lose here, especially if the weather's nice. And a really good tip if you're having a particularly tough day is instead of taking your baby or toddler in the backyard or to a park to play, just take them on a walk. Every child is different, of course, and Kai's always been really good about sitting in his stroller and not trying to get out constantly, but on really tough days, I take him for a walk, and this is great because I feel like I get a little bit of alone time, even though I'm not technically alone. Like, obviously he's sitting in his stroller, but he's always been very content to just like enjoy the sights and the sounds, and then I just get time to push the stroller, move my body, and just walk and be, essentially. The fifth thing was a game changer for me, and that was to change my perspective on crying in general. The first few times that Kai ever threw a tantrum, all I could think was, how do I get him to stop? And so aside from the crying and screaming, that was what agitated me more than anything, was just this feeling of zero control. Since then, I've done some research, I've read a few books, and I've changed how I feel about little kids crying. And at this point now, I don't feel like it's something to try to stop. The sound of crying, screaming, whining can still be a little bit overwhelming, but it's so much easier for me to handle now because I don't have this overwhelming need to control it or this underlying feeling that crying is bad. Generally, and emphasis on generally, because every situation is so different. So just please remember, I'm generalizing right now. I simply sit with him when he's having a tough moment. If he wants me to hug him, I'll hug him. If he's calm enough, I'll talk to him. And I just hold space for him to calm down and wind down. And I would say more often than not, he does calm down and stop crying or screaming way faster than if I was to tell him like, shh, or be quiet, or enough. Sometimes he still doesn't calm down right away, but that's okay, because in those moments, it's not my job to get him to stop. It's my job to teach him how to regulate himself. And the best way to teach is by example, to demonstrate the behavior that we want to see in our kids. The last thing is to remember that I'm going to miss this. Sometimes I think we need to just pause and take a moment to see the day that we're living through the lens of our like 70 or 80-year-old self, because I'm certain that my 80-year-old self would give anything to relive the day that I'm living right now, even if it's a really tough one. I see those TikToks where people post like their crying or screaming child, and there's that song, "You're Gonna Miss This," and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna miss this. I know that most of us probably won't miss the tantrums per se, but I also know that my son is not gonna want me to hold him forever. So that's something I try to keep in mind in those moments where I feel like he just wants me to hold him all day. He's not gonna want me to hug and kiss him every single time he falls down forever. Don't ever underestimate the power of your mindset. A quick perspective shift like what I just explained is usually enough to help me separate myself from the feeling of being overwhelmed. If you are in a season of motherhood or parenthood that's feeling overwhelming, I hope that this was really helpful for you, or if nothing else, I hope that you feel less alone, because I know sometimes it can feel so isolating and like you're the only one that's having a meltdown along with your toddler. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!